the ultimate Bali travel guide. Let's go!
We spent 7 full days in Bali, stayed in private villas with rooftop jacuzzis, ate like royalty 3 times a day, explored hidden waterfalls, climbed an active volcano at sunrise, and the entire trip cost us less than $500 each. Not $500 a day. $500 total, flights, hotels, food, tours, everything. And honestly, we could have gone even cheaper. Bali is one of those rare places on Earth where your money stretches so far it almost feels illegal. But here's the thing. Most travel guides won't tell you. It's not just about how cheap Bali is, it's about knowing exactly where to go, what to skip, and which little-known tricks can save you hundreds without sacrificing a single moment of the experience. So buckle up, because this is the only Bali travel guide you'll ever need. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete day-by-day itinerary, a full cost breakdown, and enough insider knowledge to plan the trip of a lifetime. And trust me, some of these tips genuinely caught us off guard, even after visiting Bali multiple times. Before we get into the itinerary and all the good stuff, let's start with the one thing that can either save you a fortune or quietly drain your budget before you even land: your flight. Getting cheap flights to Bali isn't about luck, it's about strategy. The first thing you want to do is compare prices across platforms like Skyscanner and Google Flights. Both of them let you view prices across an entire month at a glance. So instead of locking yourself into specific dates, you can spot the cheapest windows and plan around them. Flexibility is everything here. Shifting your departure by just 2 or 3 days can sometimes cut your fare in half. Another move that most people overlook is stalking your local airlines on social media. Follow them, subscribe to their newsletters, turn on notifications, do whatever it takes to stay in the loop. Airlines run flash sales constantly, but they disappear fast. If you're not watching, you'll miss them. And once you've locked in those flights, you need to think about timing, because when you visit Bali, matters more than most people realize. The dry season runs from April through November. The skies are clear, the humidity is manageable, and it's perfect for beaches, hikes, and outdoor adventures. But here's the catch. Everyone knows this. So the dry season is also peak tourist season, which means bigger crowds and higher prices on everything from hotels to tours. Now, the wet season runs from December through March, and most people write it off completely. That's a mistake. Yes, you'll get rain, but it usually comes in short afternoon bursts, not all-day downpours. The rest of the day is often sunny and gorgeous, and because fewer tourists show up during this window, you'll find better deals on accommodations, shorter lines at attractions, and a much more peaceful experience overall. Some of the most magical moments we had in Bali happened during the wet season, when we practically had entire temples to ourselves. So don't let a little rain scare you away. But no matter when you go, there are 2 things every single traveler needs to grab the moment they land at the airport. The first one is internet access. Bali without internet is like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded. You need it for maps, for booking rides, for translating menus, for everything. You've got 2 options here. If you're staying for a shorter trip, around 4 to 7 days, a pocket Wi-Fi device is your best bet. You can pre-book one online before your trip for as low as $3.50 per day, and then just pick it up at a designated counter right there at the airport. They'll set it up for you on the spot. But if you're staying longer, a local SIM card makes more sense. You can grab one for around $22 that lasts up to 30 days, and the price varies depending on how much data you need. Either way, pre-book it before you arrive, because walk-up prices at the airport are always higher. Bali has 4 main areas that first-time visitors gravitate toward, and each one has a completely different personality. Picking the right one for you can make or break your experience. Let's start with Seminyak. This is Bali's stylish, older sibling. Think stunning sunsets over the Indian Ocean, upscale restaurants with world-class cocktails, designer boutiques lining the streets, and a nightlife scene that doesn't quit until the early hours. If you want a polished, luxurious Bali experience with easy access to the rest of the island, Seminyak delivers. Just know that all that style comes at a price. This is one of the more expensive areas in Bali, especially for accommodations and dining. But even here, if you know where to look, you can find deals that would shock you. Right next door to Seminyak sits Kuta. These 2 share a lot of DNA. Same vibrant energy, same surf breaks, same buzzing nightlife, but Kuta skews younger and significantly cheaper. This is backpacker central. You'll find hostels, budget hotels, and affordable restaurants everywhere you look. If you want the same lively atmosphere as Seminyak without the premium price tag, Kuta is your play. It's also the closest tourist area to the airport, which is a nice bonus when you're exhausted from a long flight and just want to collapse into bed. Then there's Ubud. And Ubud is a completely different world. Imagine waking up in a villa surrounded by dense tropical jungle with the sound of birds and flowing water as your alarm clock. Ubud is Bali's spiritual and cultural heart. It's where you'll find those iconic rice terraces you've seen all over Instagram, traditional Balinese dance performances, yoga retreats, and some of the most peaceful energy you'll ever feel in your life. It's about 2 hours from the airport, so it takes a bit of effort to reach. But the moment you arrive, you understand why people fly across the planet to sit in silence here. If you're chasing inner peace, nature, and culture, Ubud is calling your name. And finally, Canggu. This one has exploded in popularity over the last few years, and for good reason. Canggu is the chill, laid-back beach town that somehow manages to feel both trendy and relaxed at the same time. The beaches are less crowded than Seminyak or Kuta. The waves are great for surfing, and the cafe scene is unreal. We're talking smoothie bowls, specialty coffee, and brunch spots that look like they were designed specifically for your feet. But it's not all quiet vibes. Finn's Beach Club, one of the most famous party spots in all of Bali, is right here in Canggu, so you get the best of both worlds. Peace when you want it, energy when you need it. Now here's the move that most first-timers miss. You don't have to pick just one area. If you've got a week in Bali, split your time across 2 or 3 of these zones. Spend a couple nights in Seminyak, move to Ubud for the jungle experience, and finish in Canggu for that beachy farewell. You'll get a taste of everything Bali has to offer. And as you'll see later, we figured out a way to make those transfers between areas completely free. And speaking of accommodations, don't assume that Bali villas are expensive. We stayed in private villas with swimming pools, rooftop jacuzzis, and net beds overlooking rice fields for as low as $10 a night. $10 for a private villa. Bali's accommodation game is on another level, and if you book smart, you'll live like royalty on a backpacker's budget. But choosing where to stay is just the beginning. What really separates an average Bali trip from an unforgettable one is how you fill your days. If you want to see the best of Bali without spending hours planning logistics or blowing your budget on private tours, there's one strategy that changes everything: Joiner Tours. The concept is simple. Instead of hiring a private car and guide just for yourself, you join a small group of fellow travelers and split the cost. The tour company handles everything. They pick you up from your hotel, drive you to all the best spots, provide a guide, and in many cases, even include meals. All you have to do is show up. Prices start as low as $20 per person for a full day of activities, which is almost absurdly cheap when you consider what you're getting. And the variety is incredible. Whether you're into adventure, culture, photography, or just beautiful scenery, there's a Joiner Tour built specifically for you. Let me walk you through the 5 most popular ones and what they'll cost you. First up is the Nusa Penida Day Tour, and this one is non-negotiable. If you visit Bali and skip Nusa Penida, you've made a serious mistake. This island sits just a short boat ride from the mainland, and it looks like something out of a fantasy movie. We're talking towering limestone cliffs dropping straight into turquoise water, hidden beaches that feel like they belong in another century, and views so dramatic they almost don't look real. The day tour takes you to all the iconic spots. King Beach with its famous T-Rex-shaped cliff. Diamond Beach, where brave souls can descend 400 steep steps to reach one of the most beautiful stretches of sand on Earth. Broken Beach with its natural rock archway. And Crystal Bay, where the water is so clear you can see straight to the bottom. The tour covers boat transfers, van transportation on the island, entrance fees, a guide, and usually lunch. All of that for around $40 per person. That's an absolute steal for what might end up being the single most breathtaking day of your entire trip, and what happens at 4 in the morning the next day might top even that. The Mount Batur Sunrise Trek is one of those experiences that stays with you long after you leave Bali. Your guide picks you up from your hotel in the dead of night, drives you to the base of an active volcano, and then leads you on a trek up to the summit in total darkness. The hike takes about 2 hours, and yeah, it's challenging. Your legs will burn, your lungs will work, and there will be moments when you wonder why you agreed to this, but then you reach the top. And as the first light of dawn breaks over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold, with the entire island stretched out below you and clouds rolling through the valleys like slow rivers, every single step becomes worth it. You'll sit there at the peak, nearly 6,000 feet above sea level, eating a simple hot breakfast that your guide prepared, and you'll feel something that's hard to put into words. The tour runs about $32 per person, includes the guide, breakfast, hotel pickup, and all transportation. If you have even a shred of adventure in you, do not skip this one. For something completely different, the Ayung whitewater rafting tour takes you deep into Bali's jungle interior. Picture this. You're cruising down a river carved between massive stone walls covered in moss and tropical plants, with waterfalls cascading down the cliffs on either side. One moment you're navigating through exciting rapids, the next you're gliding through calm stretches where the only sound is birdsong and flowing water. It doesn't matter if you've never rafted before. The guides are experienced and keep everything safe while making sure you have a blast. After the ride, you dry off and sit down for a buffet lunch with a view of the river valley. The whole experience costs as little as $17. $17 for a jungle river adventure with lunch included. That's barely the price of a sandwich in most cities back home. The Bali Instagram tour exists for one reason: to take you to every single photogenic spot on the island in a single day. The Gates of Heaven at Lempuyang Temple, where you stand between two towering stone gates with a volcano perfectly framed in the background. The Tegalalang rice terraces, those cascading green steps that have become one of Bali's most recognizable images. The jungle swings, where you soar out over a tropical canyon with nothing but open air beneath you. And hidden waterfalls tucked deep in the forest, where the light filters through the canopy in ways that make every photo look professional. Your guide knows all the angles, all the timing tricks to avoid crowds, and all the best spots that casual tourists walk right past. Starting at around $31 per person, this tour pays for itself in content alone. And rounding out the top 5 is the Uluwatu Temple and Kecak Fire Dance Tour. This is Bali at its most dramatic. The temple itself sits on the edge of a steep cliff, 70 meters above the crashing ocean waves, and watching the sunset from this vantage point is one of the most cinematic experiences Bali offers. But the real showstopper happens after dark, when dozens of performers sit in a circle and deliver the Kecak Fire Dance, an ancient Balinese performance driven entirely by rhythmic chanting and fire. No instruments, just human voices, coordinated movement, and flames dancing in the darkness. It's hypnotic, powerful, and unlike anything you've seen before. There are plenty more tours available beyond these 5. You've got the Ubud Highlights Tour, the Northern Bali Tour, waterfall chasing expeditions, and more. But these 5 are the ones that consistently deliver the most value and the most unforgettable moments. And if group tours aren't your style, there's another way to explore that might actually be even cheaper. Getting around Bali on your own is easier than you'd think, and you've got 3 solid options depending on your comfort level and group size. The first is renting a scooter. This is the cheapest way to move around the island by far. Rentals cost about $4 to $5 per day, and fuel is roughly $1 per liter. You get total freedom to explore at your own pace, stop wherever you want, and take those random detours down roads that look interesting. The downside is that Bali traffic can be genuinely chaotic. Scooters weave through cars, trucks share narrow village roads, and the rules of the road are more like suggestions than laws. If you're an experienced rider, it's exhilarating. If you're not confident on 2 wheels, skip this one. Your second option is ride-hailing apps like Grab and Gojek. Think of them as Bali's version of Uber. You book a ride on your phone, see the price up front, and pay with your credit card. No haggling, no getting overcharged, no stress. These are almost always cheaper than traditional taxis, especially Bluebird taxis, which rarely agree to use the meter and will try to charge you inflated tourist prices. Grab and Gojek eliminate that entire headache. But the third option is the one that genuinely blew our minds, and it might be the smartest travel hack in all of Bali: private car charters. Now, before you scroll past thinking this sounds expensive, hear me out. A 6-hour private car with a dedicated driver costs as low as $30 total, not per person, total. If you're traveling with a partner or a small group of 4, that's about $7 to $8 per person for 6 full hours of private transportation with fuel included. And here's where it gets really clever. Let's say you're checking out of your hotel in Seminyak and need to get to your next accommodation in Ubud, which is about 2 hours away. Instead of booking a separate ride just for the transfer, you book a car charter and turn that transfer into a private tour. Your driver picks you up in Seminyak, takes you to 2 or 3 tourist attractions along the way, and then drops you off at your Ubud villa at the end. You've just combined your transportation and your sightseeing into one cost and essentially gotten a free city transfer in the process. Need more time? The 10-hour charter runs about $40 total, and the 12-hour option is around the same range. That comes out to roughly $10 per person for an entire day of private transportation across the island. Your own car, your own driver, your own schedule, for $10. We used this trick multiple times during our trip, and it saved us an absurd amount of money while giving us complete control over our itinerary. This is probably our single biggest recommendation for anyone visiting Bali. Now, after a full day of exploring, there's only one thing left to do, and it might be the most delicious part of the entire trip. Eating in Bali is not just about filling your stomach. It's a full-on culinary adventure that hits different at every price point. From tiny roadside stalls run by local families who've been perfecting the same recipe for generations, to trendy restaurants serving creative fusion dishes you won't find anywhere else. Every meal here tells a story. And the best part is that some of the most incredible food in Bali costs almost nothing. Local eateries called warungs are where the magic happens. These are small, family-owned restaurants where the food is fresh, the portions are generous, and the prices will make you question everything you've ever paid for a meal back home. If you're visiting Bali for the first time, there are 5 dishes you absolutely cannot leave without trying. Nasi Goreng comes first because it's practically the national dish. Fragrant fried rice cooked with garlic, shallots, and a blend of sweet soy sauce and chili paste, tossed with chicken or prawns and vegetables, then crowned with a perfectly fried egg on top. At a local warung, this masterpiece costs between $1 and $3. $3 for a dish so good that you'll order it again the next day and the day after that. Mee goreng is its noodle sibling. Same incredible flavor profile, same aromatic spices, but built on stir-fried noodles instead of rice. Equally addictive, equally cheap, and available at virtually every warung and street stall across the island. Then there's satay. And if you love grilled meat, this will become your obsession. Skewered chicken, beef, or pork, char-grilled over open flames until slightly charred on the outside and juicy on the inside, served with a rich peanut sauce that's smoky, sweet, and just a little spicy. Individual skewers go for as low as 50 cents each at street stalls, which means you can eat like a king for the cost of a cup of coffee back home. Baby guling is where things get serious. This is Bali's legendary roasted suckling pig, and it's considered the crown jewel of Balinese cuisine. Here's a complete 7-day Bali itinerary with real costs, designed to squeeze every drop of value out of your trip. A quick note, these prices assume you're traveling with at least one other person, so some costs are split between 2. Before your trip even begins, you'll want to lock in 3 things in advance: a promo flight, all your accommodations, and a pocket Wi-Fi or SIM card. Combined, these pre-trip expenses come out to roughly $170 per person, depending on where you're flying from and how early you book. Day 1 is all about arriving and settling in. You land at the airport, grab a ride to your accommodation in Seminyak, and take the rest of the day to decompress. Walk along Seminyak beach as the sun goes down, grab some dinner at a nearby warung, and maybe crack open a cold bintang while watching the waves roll in. No rush, no schedule, just easing into island mode. Estimated cost for the day, about $14. Day 2 is when the adventure kicks into high gear with the Nusa Penida day tour. You'll get picked up from your hotel early, take a boat to the island, and spend the entire day visiting some of the most jaw-dropping landscapes in Southeast Asia: Kelingking Beach, Broken Beach, Crystal Bay, and if you're feeling brave, those 400 steps down to Diamond Beach. Lunch is included with the tour, and once you're back on the mainland, you grab dinner near your Seminyak base. Estimated cost, around $44. Day 3 is where we deploy the car charter strategy. Book a 10-hour private car, have the driver pick you up from Seminyak, and map out a route to Ubud with stops along the way. First hit Tanah Lot, the famous sea temple perched on a rock formation in the ocean. Then swing by Pura Menganing, a water temple that's far less crowded than the popular Tirta Empul, but equally stunning and far more peaceful. After that, cruise through Ubud Palace and the Ubud Art Market before your driver drops you off at your jungle villa. You've just gotten a full private tour and a free city transfer in one booking. Estimated cost, about $30. Day 4 starts before the sun does. The Mount Batur sunrise trek picks you up from your Ubud hotel around 2 in the morning, drives you to the volcano, and guides you to the summit in time to watch dawn break over the island. After breakfast at the peak, you're back at your villa by midday, with the entire afternoon free. Rent a scooter and explore Ubud's hidden corners, or just soak in the villa's pool, surrounded by jungle. You've earned the rest. Estimated cost, around $52. Day 5 brings the Instagram tour, and we're layering in another free transfer. The tour picks you up in Ubud and takes you to every photogenic landmark on the island. The Gates of Heaven, Tirta Ganga Water Palace, Tukad Chapung Waterfall hidden inside a canyon, and the Tegalalang Rice Terraces, where you can finally try the famous Bali swing. At the end of the tour, your driver drops you off at your new accommodation in Canggu instead of circling back to Ubud. That's a free transfer wrapped inside a full day of sightseeing. Once you're settled in Canggu, end the evening at Finn's Beach Club during happy hour for buy one get one cocktails. Estimated cost, about $45. Day 6 is a split day. You've got the whole morning free, so rent a scooter, find a beachside cafe, and order one of those famous Canggu smoothie bowls for brunch. Take your time, relax, scroll through all the incredible photos you've taken so far. Then, around 3 in the afternoon, the Uluwatu Uluwatu Temple and Kecak Fire Dance Tour picks you up. You'll watch the sunset from one of the most dramatic cliff edges in Bali, then sit under the stars as the fire dance unfolds in front of you. Afterward, your driver drops you off at your final accommodation in Kuta. Another free transfer, another smart move. Estimated cost around $41. Day 7 is your farewell day, and it's all about soaking up those last few hours of Bali magic. Spend the morning exploring local markets and picking up souvenirs, whether that's handcrafted jewelry, batik textiles, or aromatic Balinese coffee. In the afternoon, treat yourself to a traditional Balinese spa treatment. A full-body massage here costs a fraction of what you'd pay anywhere else, and after 6 days of adventure, your body will thank you. For your final meal, find a quiet warung, order one last plate of Nasi Goreng, and let the flavors sink in as you replay the week in your mind. Then grab a ride to the airport and catch your flight home. Estimated cost about $38. Add it all up, and the total cost for a 7-day, 6-night Bali adventure comes to approximately $434 per person. Call it $500 if you want some breathing room for spontaneous purchases, extra meals, or unexpected discoveries along the way. That's $500 for flights, accommodations, food, transportation, tours, activities, and memories that will last the rest of your life. And remember, this breakdown assumes you went full budget mode. Promo flights, affordable villas, joiner tours, and local warungs. If you want to upgrade certain parts of the experience, maybe a fancier villa here or a nicer restaurant there, you absolutely can, and it still won't break the bank by most international standards. But here's the honest truth that no itinerary can capture. There is no such thing as a perfect Bali trip. There's only your Bali trip. Maybe you'd rather skip the volcano hike and spend that morning at a yoga retreat in Ubud. Maybe nightlife matters more to you than sunrise treks. Maybe you want to ditch the itinerary entirely on day 4 and just follow a random road on a scooter until you find something nobody else has seen. That's the real beauty of Bali. It doesn't care about your itinerary. It rewards curiosity, spontaneity, and the willingness to get a little lost. The guide you just watched is a framework, not a rulebook. Use it as a starting point. Shape it around what excites you, and build something that feels like yours. Because at the end of the day, the best travel memories don't come from checking boxes on a list. They come from those unplanned moments when you turn down a road you didn't mean to take and discover something that takes your breath away. And in Bali, those moments are waiting around every single corner.